Kiambo Natatanzambi Yamazulu, Kimfumu Chakwisa, Bayetin Kosi Kimbo, hallelujah. Well, I just did a video with Brother Baya, an amazing video, and I know many people have already started to react to it. I thank him for the information that he was able to bring through the Mwanda. At times, it was weird because I saw this pulse in the camera, and it almost felt like it was a spiritual entity because of the way he was flowing. It almost seemed like the Manda was definitely in him, and so I could tell that him and the Father have started to really come into some things. What I will say is what I'm going to tell you, and of course, first of all, I give honor and glory and praise to Tatanzambi and Pungu Talendo. I give honor to Kuswa Congo, to the Mwandan Semi, to all the Maleki Congo. I'll start yawning, forgive me. To all of the elders, to all of our ancestors of Isolele. I give honor to all the Bantu tribes around wherever they may be scattered, especially in Embo, the Bakongo people. I give honor to all those in this awakening and those who are helping the non-Bantus greeting across the world. And get the reason why I'm back on is essentially something has happened, and it coincides with what Brother Keith was and I were talking about, and some others with their I had the visions, I sent that out, and many of us know that the media is controlled by the fallen ones. They will never tell you that. They'll say, oh yeah, these are good Christian people that come on the news and da da da. And of course, they're secret society people too, and they have to keep their mouths shut about what they're really talking about. Even when they get criticized, they have to act like they defend what they do in righteousness. And of course, there are also some who don't know, but the reason why I'm talking here is because of what I anticipated. So we know, I called it Red October for a reason. Things are already starting to get crazy. I was listening to the news lady, and it was weird. It was the weirdest thing because okay, so since we've already come to this consensus that in this awakening, those of us who have been really moving our people forward, those of us who are having an impact on this are very much under surveillance. We know that the enemy is trying to keep, as we keep see things, as we continue to transfer power. And we'll talk about that because I watched Brother Yanata's video, and it's funny because he mentioned about electricity and how it works, because that's exactly how the Most High broke it down to me when we first started our walk together. And it started to resonate even more why they did some things to interfere, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm going to show you how many of us can get our power back. I know Brother Yanata talked about people he turned on. Sadly, some of them were using it for the wrong purposes. My personal view on that is like what happens. Um, we Kuswa Kongo talked about finding those that are worthy, and you know, letting your peace fall upon them, if not, take it back, which that's one of the things that we forget, that whatever we send out to people, we can actually retract it, because that's what Kuso Kongo was talking about. The Most High can give gifts, and he can remove them. Now we know it talks about how, especially with bounty people, the Most High's, you don't, the gifts are never for sin. It's what you do with them that then the Most High can begin to work against you. So that's one of the reasons why many people who start doing that will seek protection with the other side and other society types. Now, what I'm going to show you today um, coincides with what I was already noticing. So the lady that I saw, okay, was doing a story about, and she started off with, we're going to be doing a series on two Americas. Right off the bat, I already knew what she was talking about. It had nothing to do with what was happening, she was about to say. And she goes into the missing people, the two Americas. And I happen to notice she's wearing the black with the leopard skin dress. Okay. For those of you who aren't aware of the purpose of the leopard skin, people just think, oh yeah, leopard skin is cool. They don't understand, and it goes back to Adama and the clothing the Most High made for him when he came out of the water. And it was stolen by Nimrod, stolen by Esau after he killed Nimrod, and then it came into the possession of Yakubi, as I now understand, in the book of Jasher. However, they still use it in the esoteric world to recognize Nimrod. Okay. So one of the things I noticed she said was two Americas, which is a code. And she started to talk about her story. Then all of a sudden, it was the most weird thing. A signal started to mess up her ear, and she kept going, ah, 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 ah. And then they had to cut to the next person. Okay. So it was almost like, when people don't know this, maybe people, maybe they do, maybe they don't, the media is used to actually, it's like, for the higher level of people in this system, they use the media to send messages to those who are in hiding, those you don't see, the ones that are more less commonly um, in, they're not in the line, they're not in the light. So, for example, when ships were in trouble or something, they would send out Morse code. They do the dot dash, the coding. Well, inside your television is a similar system. Okay, but now they use it in ways to communicate for hidden reasons. So in the secrecy, just like the Most High, he talks to his people in codes, or he talks to us, the real chosen people, in a certain way to where only we would understand it. They do the same thing for themselves. That's why everything that they do when they learn is to, when they say certain words, bam, it means this. If they say this word, bam, okay, they start saying words. It's, you think it's just a commercial. You think it's just a television show. You think you're just watching entertainment. But to those who are trained to know, and actually they put this in the show Knight Rider one time, when they showed when they were watching how the coding was in the concert and all that. Well, there was a way they showed you how that there's hidden messages in the coding of different things, of screens, computers, whatnot. There's what they call hidden coding. So one of the things, when she said the two Americas, what she was actually trying to indicate was, it's time. Okay. So they know, and I'm going to give you what I mean. All right. So when I did a previous video, I talked about the Gregorian calendar, and this going to kind of coincide with everything that I've been saying. Okay. Now, I'm not going to try to go over anybody's head. This is scriptural related. The Most High talks about this in other scriptures that are less commonly known, okay, that they don't put out there, like the second book of Ezra. Okay. Now, if you recall, I talked about a video when you see, no, I didn't, like I said, look at all these other calendars. Excuse me. Wow, sorry. I'm a little tired, so I apologize, because it was something I wasn't expecting to do, but it's something that we need to be paying attention to because, like we said, things are going to start happening over here faster. So it talks about how we see on October 1582, at the time it was a Thursday, okay, followed by October 15th. Now, for those of us who know the true Passover now, this is something we just started it. Okay, we're in the process of, it's been, I think it's been, hold on, let me double check that because it's supposed to go, I think they might have gone too soon, the person that told me, because the 23rd, they're claiming, now some people are going by one. Okay, and not the, one second. Okay, so um to get back on my train of thought, and of course, this is something to Wanda, like I wanted to share a vision. This one I can share it because it's not as in depth, but it kind of goes into what I was expecting. Okay, for those that don't know from other videos I've done, and like I said, for those of you who are new to this stuff, go back a little bit to like my 1 year or even the end of the 3 years ago, okay, and start from there because then you'll start to get an understanding a little bit more. But I talked about the Mesopotamian. See, most people don't know that the Mesopotamian Babylonian system is still in play. Okay. Oh, sorry. Now, when we talk about this, there are gods involved. They're fallen angels, they're demons who have been able to trick the world into different things. I'm even looking at one of the structures. There's a pyramid on my television screen when I paused it. And this is one of the ones in South America, current case, okay, where they did sacrifices in the top. But um, each society was basically structured by the same gods in different forms and different names so that you wouldn't catch on that it's the same ones. Okay, so to the fallen angel that we know as Satani or Satan, which really just means accuser technically in our culture, he, how should I say, he was known as the god Sin. Okay. All right. So let's see if I can, 1 second. Make sure I got this working right. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I'm back with this. Just wanted to make sure you understand, okay? So in the Mesopotamian belief, you had this deity called Sin. He was also known as Nanar or Nana, which is kind of weird because in the Kikongo or the Kongololo, Nana means 8. So now you're going to see where it says, I shall be like the Most High. The Star of Alba is Tatanzambi, and now he comes with the stealing of it, okay? Because this is this, remember it says the earth was one language, so the Kikongo was common in all different beliefs, including Mesopotamian. So Nana, which 8. So this is where we get the concept. Now, I know tomorrow's calculation is an 8-day, which is kind of interesting because it falls on the anniversary of the October the 4th, and it's leading into our Passover season as the real one, okay? So we have, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, there was the real Passover, as we now understand in Bantu culture, was actually in the springtime of the Southern Hemisphere, because that is where Kuswa Congo, that is where we went. This is where the Southern, that was where the time frame that was used for at that time that we were taken out during that period, and that event took place. The so-called other people, they put it on the other end of the spring for the Northern Hemisphere, so it confuses. That's why they do that, okay? Because they know this is actually going to be connected to their, because they're Hittites, they were worshiping these gods, okay? They just went by different names. So, okay, so you had, remember what the Rock was pretending, was showing himself. He was an Akkadian, Babylonian. He was part of the, so it says here, this is the deity. Sin was also known as Nana or Nanar, and was a deity shared by Sumerians, and Samaria comes from Semiramis. Okay, Assyrians. Now this is from the Greek, the god Assur. This is not the descendant of Shem. This is the deception. Okay, this name did not come from the descendant of Shem. This came from the god. Okay, that's why the location, that's how they were able to make it similar. Then you had the Babylonians and the Akkadians. He was part of the wider Mesopotamian religion, but it was also one of the most beloved gods of Babylon. Sin's seat was Zuggurat or in the Sumerian Empire, where he was worshipped as one of the main gods. Okay. Now, when we say, okay, so now here's where we get into the so-called Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it. They're trying to say that he is the son of Enlil, and Enlil, who was identified with the Semitic. Okay, so this is these so-called, what do you want to call it, Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, when they're worshiping these deities, but they all are connected to fallen angels in Babylonian system. Now, of course, this is why they want to call it mythology. You see it? They call it mythology because what that does is when you say, oh, well, this is mythology, it gets you in that mindset of this is something that was fabricated. So that this is like just their belief, their religious belief, because it comes from putting you in the scientific mode of human created religions to justify the death and life of themselves. But really, we're supposed to be these evolved beings that came from whatever they want to call it, from other like apes and all this other garbage that they say. so that you don't actually pay attention that this is actually a real deity. So many scientists will, like Scientology, they will sit there and tell us, oh, you guys are, scientists and Scientologists say this is all garbage to us, because to them, because they believe in the facts of what they can see, what they can prove, that's why they use that's why they don't understand that they've used the mixed creatures of the days before Noah have become their skeletal history. Okay. And because of this particular mythological god, they're believing in this concept of millions of years and because it's made up by these fallen angels. Okay. So now, but of course, these scientists don't understand that this whole concept was designed to actually create a deception over the true Hebrews and make us start to disconnect ourselves from the true God of creation. So if you turn it into scientific theory, then it's like, to us, especially when Bantus get into it, the way they're teaching it now, okay, it's like the creator didn't exist. And that's what these fallen angels want you to believe, because now you can't power up if you don't even acknowledge that he's there, okay, and you become what they call a scientific mind, okay, where you believe only in what can be proven scientifically. Then you're going to call this deity a myth. So that's how he convinces the world he didn't exist. Okay. At the same time, it also tells the bounty people are actually causing themselves to be completely disconnected from their power and abilities, because you now make the creator into something that is just a made up story to create religions and whatnot. So when you go into the scientific field, you must leave your idea of a creator out. Okay. So now, what we have going on, and that's what I was saying it's gonna happen, is I had a vision, because it's kind of funny because he and I are from the same state. He's a lot older than me though, but he was born around Denver. The comedian that you know is Sinbad. Okay. I don't remember his real name, but I know he comes from a church background where his family members, I believe his father is a pastor and his mom was something. I can't remember the whole story. But he even did one of his shows when he opens up singing in the choir. Okay. Excuse me. Well, the thing that got my attention was, okay, so in this vision, it was weird because I was driving somewhere where I needed to go get something from a mall or store. It was a weird vision. I was with another lady. She was a Bantu black lady, but I didn't really quite recognize if anybody I know. But my wife was with me, and we're walking through this mall, and I see him with this woman. And I didn't recognize the woman he was with. I kind of thought maybe it was his wife. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Well, for some reason, we start talking, but of course, his name is Sinbad. That's the name he uses. What you don't understand is that he took it, they're using it from he is said to be taken from the movie Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. Okay. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how he really did that. I forgot the interview when he talked about when he said how he got his name, but that's not important here. So what was weird was the message I got out of the thing, out of the vision, was when I turned, I was talking, we were at this counter doing something, and I turned and I looked, and all of a sudden there was a chain connected to him. It's just weird. It's like, whoa, okay. So in the response to that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're working to get the people who are sinning bad out of these chains, and we will help rise you up. As I say, oh man, we're gonna help you with that. You know, you're sinning bad. We're gonna help you rise out of these chains. So it was like, you know, the concept behind it was those who continue to sin bad will remain in the chains. Is what is how I'm able to see the interpretation. Okay, so then you go to what happened with this particular deity in the Kikongo or the Bantu or the Kosa. They refer to Kuswa Kongo, that the world may refer to as Yesaya Kongo, Yeshua, Yesaya, Yeshaya, Yahawashai, you know, all the different names. Um, but the Kosa says incendicy, which we, of course, we learned through watching some of Johnny John's videos, because she did do her part. I give her respect for that. That it means sin destroyer. So the purpose of how we saw Kuswa Kongo, okay, and this is how you can tell we come from this ancient culture that we were part of, because we were in Babylon, we were in Egypt, we were in Persia, okay, we knew about this deity that carried this name, and the purpose of Kuswa Kongo was to destroy him, okay? So the way Kuswa Kongo was to destroy him was to empower the people of the Most High, Tatanzambi, to be able to overcome this deity. Okay. See, a lot of people in English and who speak this language, they just think that sin is just a word when they don't actually realize it was a god that was worshipped. This is why they say the devil comes with many names. Okay, and one of his names was sin. And he's said to be connected somehow to the Anunnaki. Okay. This is how they hide the real truth, to say, oh yeah, it's okay to worship this god because this is what they used to do in the days, because this is what happened when Babylon was all the nations together. And they have to understand, even when the Most High separated the languages and scattered the people, we still incorporated, this is why they had to change their image, because when we got scattered and the language got changed, they couldn't let the other people know that we're scattered, that these are the same gods, that they just left. So they come in different forms. So then you worship them, and like the jaguar becomes the jaguar who was once the panther, and vice versa, you know, all these different things. The common theme among various groups is the reptile. Okay, now we know the Most High has shown us that the reptile does not always mean bad, because Yah saw the snake. We know that the Most High, when the snakes were biting us, he told Moses to put the snake on the pole. That was what would save us. That's part of our star. Okay. So now, like Brother Kefa said, they took our eagle, our snake, our lion, and replaced it with theirs. Okay. They have the two snakes. They have the lion, who is Nimrod, and the eagle that they represent with is affiliated with Tammuz, which was a hawk god. So it was a bird of prey, but the eagle was symbolizing of dominance, conquering. Okay. So when we look at, whereas our eagle helped save us from Kamat, okay, from Egypt, led us out from bondage. So the ego that they created in America was that you're now back in bondage. It's leading you back into bondage. So now, excuse me, what transpired was this is the rehashing, modernized version of what happened in Egypt. And I'm going to get into it with Joshua here in a minute. Okay, so first, you have to understand that one of the things that happened, and it's funny how it happened a couple of times, is a civil war in Kamata. Okay. Most people don't understand that war is something needed for the fallen angels to have their power, because they need the blood sacrifice, because they're dead gods. Okay. Bantu people really didn't need, the Most High didn't really need the blood. It was more about obedience to a system for the purpose of honoring not just him, but ancestry. Okay. Now, and for atonement, okay, what we were using it for and started to mess up with it is that we wanted to sin, so we would offer it as a way to get out of it, even though we were going to execute it anyway. So even now, that's what happens with many people when it comes even to the Messiah. They'll say, "Oh," you'll hear them say all the time, "Oh, forgive me for what I'm about to do." And it's like, wait a minute, that's what? And you think that you're in the clear, that everything's okay. Okay. So we kind of have a tendency to have this kind of same mindset that was given to us, because see, most people don't understand, if you study paganism in the pagan world, everything that was done by the pagan mindset was to appease to the gods. And they also saw the gods as the ability to forgive them for their transgressions. So again, you have the masquerading going on among the pagans, which is why it wasn't so hard to deceive them when they incorporated the Bantu, and they took the Bantu spirituality and they perverted it, because this is a concept that they were already used to. And see, what they understood with their gods is you offer a sacrifice to be atoned for. So don't think it was just something that, this is why they say Satan deceives the whole world, because he's masquerading as an angel of lights, even among the heathens. This is something that started way back in the days of Noah. So they're actually replicating. This is why to the other people who were cut off, the Gentiles, they are having to still act like they have to fit that mold of the Most High to these people, so that they don't recognize that there's a difference. Okay. But they always knew that something was different about us, because they would go to battle with us and they would be demolished. And they would think that, oh, well, maybe we need to give more sacrifice to the gods. How did this happen? I don't get it. Like in the case of what happened with the Pharaoh, he's like, I don't understand this. How did my entire army just get destroyed? Who is this God? What? But at the same time, he didn't go back and change. He still continued forward. And he looked for another foe, which would then become the Hittites, okay, and Amorites and others. Now, and Edomites too, because he did battle with them. So, how should I say? When we look at what's the next phase of the changes that are coming, we need to understand like Yanata said, the concept of electricity. If you understand how electricity works, uh, you'll understand how they cut off our spirituality. When we were highly spiritual, the body was in unison with the world itself, the earth, the animals, everything. And so you had a vibration where even when you needed to eat, the animal wouldn't you wouldn't need to hunt so much as the animal would lay down his life or her life. Okay. Um the fish would jump into the boat. Okay. This is something people don't understand because the you're in unison with the creator and his creation. The most high provides for you, just like you said. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about clothing. All this stuff will happen. You will be able to get what you need. Well, all you do is ask, like he says. You don't have to have worries, you don't have to concern. And it literally worked like that. And people would say, oh, that's got to be magic or that's witchcraft. No, that's what the Most High said. You don't need money would come. You'd have your money, boom, it appears if you need for something that you have to have. Now, but your relationship had to be, it wasn't something that just happened really fast. It was building. Okay. If you'll notice, Kuswa Kongo even had to instruct those who he picked slowly and, showing them certain things. Excuse me. Now, one thing I can tell you, when my spark of an awakening started in the 90s, because of the way at that time I didn't understand the way I was being, you know, people were conjuring things against me. I didn't kind of understand that. It took longer because other things had to happen to begin to break down the barriers that would start to open up the people. I'm sure the Tokwis had a hand in that, and others who were very spiritual to begin to break down the barriers that had been put up for our people to remain. Even like, even in the early 2000s, like we learned that that wasn't the time yet, even though visions were starting to pop into people's heads, like myself, the Most High was giving subtle hints, coming along slowly. Why? Because why he has to do it slowly, and I was fortunate to live long enough, is that when he has a mission for you and you need to accomplish it, when you're in a system that you don't understand the concepts behind it, you just can't just overload someone because it's like you haven't even emptied out your vessel yet because your vessel's still kind of full with the things that you thought you knew. Okay. So now when you look at, so basically, when you see what's going on in the awakening, it's kind of like the light strips, the lights are coming on. It's kind of like, um, just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. If you've ever seen where you're powering up something that's been sitting for a while, especially if you fly an airplane or something, you flick the switches, or you go on these rockets or whatever they have to call it. Each flip starts to unlock and power something until finally you get to that, that form where the thing's ready to go. Boom, especially with fighter jets, they like the pilot hits the throttle and you're going. Okay. Well, the same thing is connected to the hope when you have the Mon and Semi. So the Mon and Semi, the Most High has to start to begin the process of unlocking start to kind of turn you on a little bit, ching, turn the next thing, okay, until, you know, as long as you're continuing to grow spiritually, he can get you to that point where you're just taking off. Okay. Some people malfunction because there are malfunctions. Okay. That's when things don't go right. Okay. And I'll get to that. So I'm not trying to go too long because I won't get too technical, but it goes to show you, in a sense, when we say that you're functioning with no lights on, it means that you're kind of like the robot. Everything that you do is based off of what the input is from the person who's putting in the input. So if you have a programmer, okay, and they're giving you one program, that's what you're going to execute. These are the things you're going to do. However, if you come along and that programmer overrides that program, you now begin to do the other things. And that's what it is. The system that you're brought into gave you a certain protocol or program as to how you're supposed to function. The Most High comes in and he overrides the programming, okay, and he begins the process of restoring what he determines to be the right programming. So before, even though you didn't know it, you were the evil version of what you're supposed to be, but you didn't know that there was an evil part of you that wasn't quite right, even though you seem like you're doing the right things, because it's a masquerade. Okay. So when we look at electricity, when this came out back in April, and I kind of did this before, but I want to get a clear understanding of what this is. It says without electricity, you wouldn't be reading this article right now. Now, in the human body, it's called electrical efficiency, and I'm going to tell you the difference. Okay, when you're a little kid, you always, you know how you always see kids, and you say, "Man, they have so much energy. They're like bouncing off the wall, like pling, 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 pling. They're all over the place, pling, 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 pling." Okay, at that level, their body is functioning. The electrical, yeah, everything is new. Everything, there's no, unless you've had people who got born with certain diseases, their body is firing really, really fast. That's one of the reasons why Kuswa Kongo used the concept of being a little child, because little childs, they're like a blank slate ready to absorb. Okay. So what they absorb, that's why he said train up the child where they should go. Okay, well, we didn't do that, which is why we're in the captivity, but we think we're doing it now. When the system that we're in, it's the input is tainted. Okay. So now the little kids like, oh yeah, yeah, they're running around, and everything you tell them has an impact on what they start to learn. Okay. So they have a high frequency of electricity flow. They have their cells are pretty new, you know, all of these things that they have. But the Bantu children have a different spirituality. They're functioning a little bit different. This is why people will sit there and say, wow, you know, how can these people, you know, you see like little kids, especially like black kids, and just some of the things they say, you're like, what? How could you know that? Or how, you know, it's like, who are you talking to? Or how could you know certain things? Well, it's because they learn especially when they come from the Most High, they have a different light under comprehension. This is why one of the reasons why they know they have to steal what we learn from us, because of the connection of the genetic code, because the Most High's DNA is in them. This is one of the reasons why scientists have come up with ways to cause you to put things in your body, okay, because they know what can happen if they don't. This is that fear factor, but they don't tell you this, okay? Because those who work for the enemy want to keep you from coming online and be like full flown, like, ooh, okay, I see, I got, okay, looking like, you know, like a Superman type person, like, oh, I can hear things like I'm supposed to hear, telepathy, I can see through, I can see in both worlds, all this other stuff. They don't want that because now it begins to expose what they have been trying to hide all along, but they make people think they are through conditioning of the pastors and what they teach them and all that. Okay. So it's not because your computer wouldn't work, it's because your brain wouldn't work. Okay. What they're trying to say is the brain needs to have the proper functions. Now I'm going to show you, even with this computer that I'm on, they can use certain things to kind of mess with you. This is why you need blockages up that pull on the full armor of the Most High, because you're trying to now stop this, because this is what they do. So everything we do is controlled and enabled by electrical signals running through our bodies. As we learned in intro physics, everything is made of atoms now. Of course, they get the atoms concept, autonomous, which is part of it, but it also comes from the mockery of Adama, because he was, you know, he was high level power, electricity, wow, you know, spiritual, glowing, okay? So now you have where you're made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons have a positive charge, neutrons have a neutral, and electrons have a negative charge. Now, for those of you who are not really scientific, okay, this is the positive negative concept. This is important because it goes into your negativity and your positivity. They know this. They just put it in a special way of electricity. Okay, when these charges are out of balance, this is what they call a chemical imbalance. Okay, this is what causes this. An atom becomes either positively or negatively charged. So when you're chemically imbalanced, okay, you're going to have a tendency to have issues with negativity. So people who have anxiety, people who have, uh, you know, um, you know, depression. But again, this is all about frequencies, because this is what they do. Okay. The switch between one type of charge and the other allows electrons to flow from one atom to another. This flow of electrons, or a negative charge, is what we call electricity. So the flow of electrons, or a negative charge, they're saying, is what we call electricity. Now, the problem with this concept, okay, is because you're going from a scientific perspective, which of course comes from the alchemist, Egyptian alchemist, that he learned this from the Most High, of course. Okay, but he's a negative being now. Is that negativity and positivity charge determines the way your body functions. Okay. Since our bodies are huge masses of atoms, we can generate electricity. Okay. But who put these atoms there? That's the issue with science people. They just think, oh yeah, this is just something that's common. No, this is what we commonly say, you battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities. Okay. So they're going to be impacting this. When we talk about the nervous system sending signals to the brain, or synapses firing, or the brain telling our hands to contract around a door handle, we're talking about is electricity carrying messages from point A to point B. So when you look at Tatanzambi and you talk about his light, okay, he is a high level of positive energy. So then you go back to when Kuswa Kongo gave his speech teaching about light versus darkness. Okay. So what you're about to encounter now is a reference to the dark matter, they call it, versus the light matter, the negative and the positive, okay, aspect of things. Now they do coexist in the human body, but when the positive is higher than the negative, you have a better charge. You operate at a better frequency. Your body is, when you have a negative, okay, this is where a lot of your people start to do things they shouldn't do. Okay. Positivity and negativity. They're going to say, well, that doesn't make sense. This is not how, no, it is how electricity works in the spiritual context, because see, your body responds to behavior. And what controls your behavior is the brain. This is why the third eye, as they like to make it say, they tell you the third eye is satanic because the satanic people are the ones infecting it. Okay, and they know this. If you become aware that there's a way to change the flow of positive and negative energy with your pineal gland, okay, as I know that's what's called pineal gland. We put the pie in there, but you know, your pineal gland, that helps you discern between good and bad, and also increases your spiritual level. Okay, so it's important. So I'm going to show you what they did. This is why it was important to affect diet when it comes to people who have spirituality. Okay, because the problem with spirituality is it can also be negative spirituality and positive spirituality. It can also depends on what spiritual being you're talking to. So even though you say African spirituality, that doesn't mean anything. You could still be talking to Lucifer because he's in Africa too, in various forms. You could call Christianity wicked, but there's still other forms of wicked spirituality that can be just as negative. Okay, because the problem with many people about Christianity is you've been conditioned to think something without actually seeing something. This is what they call manipulation of the electrical connections. And the way they start doing that to control you is with frequencies. This is they didn't just invent the radio so they can actually, or do the things just so they can I say, oh, we'll make it easier for you to listen to things. And no, there's a reason for the frequencies. They did this because it also has an effect on the body. Okay. They understood that frequencies make an impact. I'm not going to try to go too long. I might have to do a part 2 because, you know, I don't want to go too long. But when we talk about the nervous system signals to the brain or synapses, telling our hands, okay, so we got that part. It's sort of like the digital cable signal carrying ones and zeros. Now, remember, ones and zeros is how they program computers. Okay, the deliver law and order, law and order. So again, the Most High, his order, he has an order to things. He has a law for things. He has a certain way of how things should function. Your body has the same process. Okay, except in our bodies, electrons aren't flowing along a wire. Instead, an electrical charge is jumping from one cell to the next until it reaches its destination. Now, this is important when it comes to this scripture right here. When it says Yochanan chapter 14. Okay. Believe thou not that I am in Tatanzambi of the Father, and the Father is in me. The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he does the works. So now he's showing you that when the Father is in you spiritually, he's doing all the work. So let's go back to the electricity. Now, you see how it says the electrical charge is jumping from one cell to the next until it reaches a destination. Now they're looking at cells as the way scientists do, or they're just something that formed. Okay. They don't recognize the creator aspect of it. This is where the Most High talks about when it says the man of perdition operates inside of you versus him. So if the man of perdition is the one operating inside of you, you don't recognize the concept that cells actually are impacted by spirit. This is not something that even comes into your scientific mind. Okay. Whereas the fallen angels, they know. So what they do is when you don't believe that, they stay dormant. They already got you in this mindset of, oh, you don't believe in it. So they don't need to do anything. They just leave you on autopilot. You're going to do what they want according to the way the system's set up, and you're just going to continue to be a cog in the wheel. So you won't do anything. You've been conditioned to become a well-oiled machine. Okay, doing whatever is supposed to happen. And then if you ever decide that you don't want to contribute, then they always let you fall out of society. All right, so electricity is key to survival. Electrical signals are fast. They follow for nearly instantaneous response to control messages. Keep this in mind. This is why we try to tell you when you pray and you have a strong signal, a strong electrical connection to Tatanzambi, this is what it says. It's an instantaneous response that you will know what to do. So if our bodies rely entirely on, say, the moment of chemicals to tell our hearts to speed up, then something is chasing us. We probably would have died out a long time ago. But see, here it is. They're telling you there's something else there. It's more than just chemicals, okay? These crucial signals that tell our hearts to speed up when we're in danger come from a mass of cells in our heart. The sinotrial node, look at this word that started it, S-I-N, oatrial node. Hello. What is danger affiliated with? Fear. Or the SA node. It's located in the right atrium, and it controls the rhythm of the heartbeat and the movement of the blood from the heart, other part of our body. This is when the Most High says to us, I know your heart, because what he sees inside of you, of your heart, determines whether you are his or not. Because those who don't have, who trust in the spirit, okay, they have no reason to fear things. They will just, they'll just take what comes to them and they'll just deal with it. It's our body's natural pacemaker. It uses electrical signals to set the pace. But our pulse isn't the only thing that relies on electrical impulses generated by our cells. Almost our cells are capable of generating, almost all of our cells are capable of generating electricity. Now, in the Most High's body, this is why you become light that people can't stand, is because you will now operate with your cells at a high level of electricity connection with the Mwanda inside, because the Mwanda becomes, and this is why you can do things with your body that scientists will be like, there's no way he did that. There's no way you just did that. Because the power level the electrical flow from the Most High increases your power level that allows you to do something. Like, there's no way a scientist would be able to explain how Simon Toko was able to take a bike and beat it and ride it faster than a car. How do you explain that? When the human body, they'll tell you, oh, the most the human body can generate is so much electricity, so that your average speed will be based upon what you can generate as far as your energy level. But his energy level could actually far exceed that of what anybody can comprehend. And so why is that? Because it has to do with a connection. The spiritual connection to the Most High determines the electricity that comes into your body, not science. So when you're thinking like this right here, when you're thinking on the level of a scientist, you are automatically under the influence of this God. You're only going to do what he allows you to think you're capable of, because he's limited your comprehension of the Father. Because with the Father, you are limitless. He is the one giving you limits to what your body can do. Okay, that's the difference. So now, as we come out of this awakening, we start to come to the fact, oh, well, technically, everything they taught us about our bodies, we have no bounds. But they made us think that we do, based upon just the knowledge. The knowledge doesn't give you the wisdom of the Most High, though, okay? So therefore, you have put yourself mentally in a box by saying there's no way, that's not possible. There's no way you can do that. It's just physically impossible. But yet you go to church on Sunday every day talking about a man who did the impossible, but yet you don't see yourself doing that too. So why is that? Okay. So now, what it boils down to, and I'll get to this real quick, because I know it's getting too long on this message. Excuse me, sorry. It says right here, there rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil has come down unto you with great wrath, because he knoweth he had but a short time. So part of that is to trick you into things that keep you to destroy your body. So one of the things that happens with electricity in your body is it's impacted, the flow, how much flow you get out of your body is impacted by chemical balances, which come from fasting or not fasting, food consumption, or whatever you eat. So when they tell you you are what you eat, you are what you eat. Okay. And that affects your ability to function as a person, even physically and spiritually. And they know this. Okay. So if you are cut off from the Most High, you will then receive the things that keep you cut off from the Most High. So for example, human voltage. Negativity is the natural resting state of your cells. So this is a natural resting state, is negativity. That's why they say, okay, you were born in a state of negativity, but you have to undo that. Now, with Banabetu, when we had spiritual fathers, okay, the dedication to the Father was the one that began the process of putting you back to where you needed to be. But if you take that ritual away, then it starts to impact your body's ability to function. Because now that actual ritual that you're supposed to do to dedicate to the Father in that way is replaced with another ritual that can't possibly give you what you're looking for because it's not the right way. Because children cannot receive with their own mouths. This is part of the way that religion began the process of negating your power. Okay. So negativity is the natural, it says related to slight imbalance between potassium and sodium. Now look at that sodium. And one of the things that they did with sodium is they mixed it with chloride. And they say, oh, well, that's table salt. No, when you put sodium with chloride, the chloride starts to have an impact on your body negatively because it's chlorine. Okay. So the sodium that you can actually, that's why when I noticed that when I went to Embo, it was fluffier. It wasn't like the crystals that you see here in America. It looked different because what they noticed was we needed the sodium, okay, because the sodium, the type of sodium depends on how it is. Now, of course, we need the potassium to a certain extent, but the sodium is what, because see, we eat bananas, but it wasn't all the time. Okay. But the sodium was a different type of sodium. Okay. So inside and see, because when you see natural salt, it's not cut with chloride. That's the lie. They had to convince you that with the chloride, it's better, but it's not. Okay. So then you hear the lady that was talking on, and she said, this is unhealthy cookout. Sodium, 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 sodium. Okay. She was actually giving you a hint that she didn't say sodium chloride, sodium chloride, sodium chloride, sodium chloride, which they call salt. Okay. Because chloride is not good for you. The sodium is, the chloride is not. We know this from when you put chlorine in the pool, different things, chlorine in your drinking water. That has an impact on the electrical impulses of your body. Okay. This is, how do you know this? Well, the way Hitler killed people with chlorine baths and steam is it shuts down your brain's ability to function and you die because your brain seizes. So what does that tell you? Okay, you add chloride to anything like salt or whatever, you make it, you mix the chemicals, you have a different impact. So now, that being said, this is why the Most High says that because we are now chasing our lovers, the lovers have to keep you subdued, unbeknownst to those who don't know the truth. Okay, it's a dumbing down, friend. It's a frequency thing. It's a frequency thing. So if you lower the frequency by using different things your body doesn't need, it affects the electricity of how your body functions. Okay, now listen, I'm a little bit further and I'm almost done here. But the reason why I'm saying today is that this is the way we have to learn. Okay, the more we pray and connect with the Most High, the more He can free us. The more we deal with people who know better, it becomes more, you're coming out of this negativity. Terribly sorry, excuse me. At rest, your cells have more potassium inside than sodium ions, and there are more sodium ions outside the cell. Potassium ions are negative, so the inside of the cells are slightly negative charged. Sodium ions are positive, so the area immediately outside the cell membrane is positive. There isn't a strong enough charge difference to generate electricity, though, in this resting state. So let me tell you what the Most High does. When you're full of light, your body is full of energy and it's full of fire. So you have a different feeling of than when your body is in a resting state. Now it's in an excited state. Now you can do things like, whoa, because the energy level, the body, the electricity builds the energy level. Okay. So then it says when the body needs to send a message from one point to another, it pays attention, it opens the gate. So here's where they got us. If you change the gate from where the message is coming from, it impacts how the body receives the messages. So this is when we say, if you're on the proper frequency with the Most High, then the Most High will be able to open the gate to come into you. That goes back to what it says right here, okay? Then the Father is in you. So when the Father is in you, he is the one, he is in your cells, he is in your body, he is functioning, and he is the one operating. So now you look different to people like, whoa, what are you? You don't look, you look, oh, something different about this guy. Okay. Other than that, you look normal to everybody else, like you're just a different person. Now, when you're really dark inside, you will sense that energy is very negative. That's why it says, when you take in darkness, how bad is the darkness? Okay. That's why he says, the words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he does the works. That's why he says, that's why he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And so when we speak, we see in the Father. You see the Father because he's showing you, okay, this is what it is supposed to be like. This is what they're doing to you. That's why he said, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very work's sake. So when the Father is in you, your works will reflect it because the Spirit is different. So you will stand out from those who are not with the Father. They will look worldly, you will not, because the Most High is not worldly, he is spirit, because worldliness is carnal. So you will not do the things that the world goes along with and be like, okay, cool, but I'm with the Father. No, you will be against what the world is doing. Okay. You will be like, no, this doesn't feel right. This is what that means when it said that, because see, when the Father is in you, then you have the law with it. So you will do according to what the law will tell you, according to what the Most High's intentions are, because you will be instructed the proper path. Hence the reason, a way. Are you in the way? Okay. So now, as more of us come into the way again, it crumbles the so-called matrix. That's why even in this article it says, uh, it goes down and says, now of course, nerve and the pain, okay, is similar to when you transgress against the Most High, you experience some kind of reaction that can affect you negatively. Just like when you get punched and it hurts. Okay. So you will, if like a grandmother talked about, if you don't listen, you're going to feel it. So eventually you're going to be impacted by your choices. because the negativity will take over and then things happen. And this is where you get your illnesses from, because this is the spiritual world of negativity. That's why it says you don't battle against flesh and blood, but against the spirits. So the more you choose to go against the Father and not know who you are and be disconnected, then you are at the mercy of those who wish to bring harm to you. So then they justify all the bad things that they're really doing to you by just calling it normal living. Oh, people get cancer. It's just a way of life. It's inherent. It's genetic. Um, heart disease. All these different things, you know. But of course, then they'll tell you the heart disease is connected to your habits in most cases. But heart disease is also connected to your spirituality of your ancestors and the things that have happened with you. That's why it's important to purge yourself of wicked things. Now, that's, like I said, we all have to do this. Now, we talk about power surges. Depends on where the source is coming from. If the Mwandan semi is bringing you the power surge, your body will respond accordingly. Okay. So people understand these type of things that happen to you, like stroke, heart attack, and other things, are a result of a lack of communication, because the energy cannot flow right. So it causes things like arthritis and other things. And a lot of that has to do with damage, physical, um, diet damage. Okay. So what I'm saying is, when it says we shall not all be changed, but sleep, but become changed, it's going from a physical body that is carnally in the world to a spiritual body that will become free of these things, to where even if they try to damage you, you won't be affected, because the spiritual realm will determine what happens to you, not the physical realm. Now, when she says, oh yeah, the person says, can human beings really power the matrix? Well, the matrix is not actually a physical thing. It's a mental thing. And the people that are feeding off of you are the ones that want the energy you give off. See, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, if you've ever been in a room, you're sitting there by yourself. Okay, if the room is cold, you're like, oh, this room is cold. You're sitting there by yourself. One person comes in, all of a sudden the room starts to get a little warmer. Two people come in, all of a sudden the room gets a little warmer. Three people and four, now all of a sudden a cold room is now warm, because you're giving off energy from the interactions between the bodies that are in there. Okay. Now, in the spiritual world, that's kind of what is happening. They're receiving what you're putting out. If it's positive, it goes to the Malakas and the Most High. If it's negative, it's going towards the demonic side. Okay. But the Gentiles, because they're pagans, what they are doing is they are being used as the conduit. So they're feeding the energy from you through them into the fallen angels, because they don't know any better. But the concept is, this is why they don't want them to know, to put us back where we need to be and to feed us back the stuff that the Most High gave them, because What that means is now if they start putting the truth back into you and you start to rise up, then it starts to pull away from them who are supposed to be their masters. They start to lose the effect. And this is why you're seeing the craziness that's happening, where people are wondering what's wrong with these world leaders? Why are so many things going awry? Because as the matrix begins to fall, the continuity starts to waver because they rely on the energy to keep you deceived. So the more you quit believing in the lies and the deception that they're teaching, then it gets harder for them to maintain control of what they have actually put in place, because you're stealing back the energy that they have worked so hard to suck to themselves. So they begin to weaken, and they can only hold. That's why they said eventually people will see what they really put in front of you. Your brain will no longer see what you think you see, but what was really there, because they put this strong delusion, there's a strong delusion over you. And at that point, that is why they have to make sure that you're under the influence of those who are controlling you willingly. Okay. That's why most people won't even be affected by the things that are coming until it's too late, because you've been put to sleep. Okay. Now, we look at, I meant to put this one. Renato was talking about spiritual Kimpeve. Kimpeve, okay? Now we know we're going to put Ubuntu. Bonzo Ubuntu Kima Kisambi Bisakabeto Kele Nsiku ya Bantu ya Kimpwanza Bantu ya Israeli. See, it keeps saying people. That's where Bantu comes in. Ya Kimpeve, Yi na Kele na Guankana ya Unsiku na Bao Kivandaka Nakati ya Intima. The Milia 31:33. So it says here of Bantu, because if it's in Leomilia, there was no Christians. So that's part of the thing that you need to strike right there. You cannot, this is replacement theology. You cannot now, because you call yourself a Christian, claim that you now are attached to the Old Testament. That's the lie. Just because you're adopted. No, you were not there. It's the law of the people. So as Ubuntu, we are judged by the law of the free of a free people. What does that mean? It means that the way they're, and of course, this is going to be misinterpreted by how they interpret it, but we Bantu people who receive the spirit of the Most High, we are free. So this is why you can condemn, you can be judges of the world. If you're not free, and what this means by free of the free spiritually. This is how they attach themselves to us by saying spiritual Isolele is supposed to include the Gentiles. So this is the adoption, which is not true. Okay, they only can come into us through the people who are free spiritually as the Bantu people themselves. In the new covenant, having its law in their hearts. Okay, this again is misinterpretation of a Gentile. The spiritual law was always in the hearts, even in the old covenant. This is the lie. They're thinking that only because the Most High put the law on the tablets, that the law also wasn't in the heart, when this is not true. Because when Moses came down, he had the spirit of the Most High in him as he carried the laws. So the new covenant and the old covenant are the same. This is how you become deceived, because the law was always in you, which is when you'll know that when you circumcise your heart. Okay, so they go say, oh, the new covenant happening when Kuswa Congo came. No, the Kuswa Congo was just trying to show you the covenant was always with you. You just didn't see it because you were carnal. Okay, this is the lie that Christians don't understand. Isolele's covenant was always there, but you have to remove the circumcision of the flesh from you. You have to circumcise your heart and become spirit to see it. So when they say the law is in the heart, this is a misnomer. Okay, the law was always in the heart. That's what the word Tula means. Technically, in the Torah, that they turn into the word Torah, it means we carried the law in our hearts the whole time, but we acted carnally, so we could not access the spiritual side of it. Okay? So the replacement theology mindset says, oh, you guys rejected it. Now we have the spiritual law. Now we have the new covenant in us. When the Most High is like baloney. Okay? He cannot reject the covenant with Yakuba. It was always a covenant. You just can't see it until you remove the carnal world. Then the Father can come into you. And this is the deception about Christians, is if this were true, then show us the Father in you. Where is he? Because if he was in you, then there's no way the atmosphere and the things around you can stay the same. No way. People would fear you just as you walk, because they would notice like, oh man, this person, you look like a god to them because the God of the creation is in you. But you've been taught the concept of blasphemy by the deceivers, because if you recognize that this what it means, you become like gods, then you don't need them they can't control you anymore, because you recognize the deceiver, the deception. You recognize that their power, okay, you don't need a pastor anymore. You don't need a priest anymore. If the Kuswa Kongo, if the Messiah and the Father is in you and the kingdom is in you, you become the priesthood of the Most High. You become the teaching. You become the walking word, the walking law, the walking covenant, the walking church assembly, because you're the temple. So at that point, you will be able to expose, and you will be able to see and discern what is right and what is wrong just by looking at it. Because the Father, you will show you. Okay? I mean, not too long, I'm sorry. So then it goes once again right back to where it says in Psalms 9. It says, and he even says, arise, Tatanzambi, let no man prevail, no muntu, let the heathen be judged in thy sight. He tells him that. He even says, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forgot the Most High. See, because the nations have forgotten Tatanzambi. That's why they're acting so, they're going crazy with the drunk of the wine and the harlot. See, the heathen, as it says, are sunk down in the pit that they made. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They have been the blind going into the pit. Okay? Just like Yonathan said in this. And when he called upon his 12 disciples, he gave them the power against unclean spirits. So here's the problem. You have to actually receive power. Receive power. Which means that the demons inside of you recognize the Most High in you, because he had the Most High in him. So now you will walk around like gods, and you will do the things that no one can comprehend. So your electricity will flow freely. The water inside of you that comes out, that the Most High gives you, his living water, will flow freely. You will never hunger, you will never thirst. You will cast out demons, okay? Now, not to say people can't do these things without certain things, but that's why he said, I never knew you. Because you're doing it for what purpose? Okay? So when we go back quickly, let's go to this one once again, and no marvel, let's read the chapter real quick. It comes down just to this, exactly like what it says. And no marvel, because Satani himself transformed into an molecule of light. Therefore, if it's no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So again, in order for anybody to call themselves of the Most High, okay, the power must manifest in them in a way that they do the things like he did and more, okay? And the discernment is, do they do all the things that the Most High says? You know, we all have different gifts. I get that. But do you bring the way you know that the person is of the Most High truly, okay, is their focus is always on him first. Always him first. Always him first. And they are not putting themselves up like you see many people in the front of, these pastors or whatever. You are only the vessel, but the Most High is the power. And you must pass that power on to the other vessels, because everybody should be walking like Messiah. If you say the Father is in you, and then he says, you are my brother, you are my mother. Because you're doing the will of the Father, because you will automatically do the will of the Father because the Father is in you, and he will show you what his will is. That's the issue. Okay? So now the world is beginning to recognize that the shift has happened. We will now go up, and they will now come down, and they must hide that aspect to the tares, to those that have been deceived. They have to come up with excuses to take it further, to keep them away from the knowledge of the truth. And it's going to start. They want to make sure they can control the next phase, which means that because the reality is it's going to expose the system. The more we power up, the system becomes more exposed to the point where they now going to be in trouble, that they need to create a bigger chaos. And the bigger chaos is coming. Because the Most High said, they must now go away. They must now be dealt with. And they're signaling it. that they're going to be doing these things. So now we have to be prepared, okay, to remove the DNA. To repentance means that we turn off the wicked side and turn on the light of the righteous side. So the negativity becomes positive and the energy flow becomes unlimited. So therefore, you connect with the Father. He can speak to you. He can do the things in you. He can use you for what he needs. And then that allows you to function in the capacity where the world fears your power. That's how it works. See, if you aren't in a position where you know just by how you think, you know, that's why humility plays a key role, that you can end somebody's life or destroy some property or whatever you can do. At a blink of an eye, you can call upon this. Okay, like when Elijah called fire down on the prophets of Baal, it isn't like it's going to be some hesitation, people. That's just how it is. So anyway, um, you know, that's why I'm going to read this real quick. And I didn't want to go this long. I'm so sorry. But this is Second Thessalonians written in Kikongo. Bila kialembwa vutukila Paulo kuna Kolinto. Bonzo bufiti tambula. Let's see. This is just saying that where he was. Mono yatungwa dio mu mono kibeni kidi. Yalembwa vutuka kwiza kwa yeno ya kiadi. Kadivo ikulu vanga kiadi. Bonanani indiena ukongyang di kangavo kayandi ko uvangwanga kadi kwa mono. Mono yasona momo kidi bu yaluka aka yalembwa vangwa kindi kwa yao bafwiti kungiangidika bu isanga vuvu muyeno babonsono vukisi kiami ikisi kiayeno babonsono kadimu kiadi kiankingi ye kiangongo kiantima mono yasonika kwa yeno kunzi amansanga mamingi luidi vangwa kiadi kanzi kidi luazaya zola kwenayami kubukanga kwa yeno vumuntu wavanga kiadi kavanga mono kiadi ko kanzi mu undambu yeno babonsono kidi yalembwa lutisila zitu Nkiangunu fweni kwa wampila voyo lusembo lolo luka kambula kwa babengi. Mu mamvutu luluta kuyambudila lubomba kidi wampila yoyo ka manwa ka kiadi kiyokyo kialuti lako. Unkiangunu mono ilombombidi la tunguna mu kunzola kadi mu diamdu diodio impe mono yasonika kidi yazaya un totolo enovo lutu maman nananga lutunu mamananga, mamon sono, kanzi wonso uluyam budin langa diyambu mono mpe iyambudidi kadi dionso de ya yambudidi vo ya yambudidi diambu ya budidi diomu diambu dieno valuse lua Christu. Now, I'm going to say, the reason why this had to be changed to another language for us that came over here is if you read it to us like this, they would know that they lied. Because our ancestry could understand everything that this is saying. So it was important that we unlearn what this is saying so that we wouldn't make the connection. This is how they knew we knew the scriptures better than they do, because this brought about the understanding through the spirit. And we didn't even need to read this to them out of the book. We could say it. It was part of us, okay? Katwiri luturwa kwa satana karika tu kondolo unzailu mumakani manda ko bu yayiza ko toloa. Okay, toloa would be the tula. Toloa mu unsamu wamboto wa Kristu ye yazibudulwa muelo mfumu. So if you go to 12 on 2 Thessalonians, let's look real quick. We'll see the connection. Wait a minute. I think this is, no, I read the wrong. I'm sorry. This is Corinthians. I need to go to, I'm sorry, I was reading it wrong. My apologies. But this is how they would know that you're understanding what they're saying. This is our language. Let's go to, sorry about that. I was reading Corinthians and not 2 Thessalonians. And then I'll end it there. Okay. So now let me get to the second. Okay. So this is the right one. My apologies. So this is just a little thing that they say, because you can tell the writing is smaller. Luziam pangi tukululeba mu diambu diangizulu a mfumo etu Yesu Kristu ye kutukusu etu kwa yandi kwa luidi nikunwa nswalu mu diela ko vo pamunwaka mumpeve, remember the spirit, ko vo mu mambu vo mu nkanda ko nkievo kwa yetu nkievo lumbu kia mfumu kilueki ka luvungunu nkwani kwa muntu munyoso mpilako kadi kakisiko nate ye lu sotoko no luateka kwiza ye muntu wakimpumbulu wazaikuswa imwana wavila. Now this I'm saying is you get used to, this is what we're going to be speaking, people. This is the language. Iyandi ukalanga ye ukukiza nlunglanga vau ntandu abia bibi kwanga nzambi vobina bisambulwa ngai e diao vendimu vala dianzambe ukuki songanga kievo nzambe ka lumba bukidi moyo koi vo yalukamba momo buyasa kaliumpe yayeno Babu. Just gonna say they could tell this is the one where they're saying is that when we told we were with you. Babu Duzei Dionso Dikakilanga Kidi Kazai Kuswamu Yandi Ntangu Kadi Mansweki Making Pumbulu Makisa di Kinglanga Diadi Kaka Nate Ye Diena Uka Unkakilanga Kavengu Wunwa Umboki Nkwa Kumpubulu si Ka Zayekana ye Bungwa kwa Mfumu Yusu Mwel Anwa Andi ya Fukswa Mu Umbonokono Angizulu Andi. Now let me see if it matches. Let's see. Now it's going to tell you, even him who comes after the work and say, well, power, sign, London. So we go back and it says, Nguzulu Andi Yeno Bonso Buena, Unsadukulu Asatana Mutulendo, Tuatu Nsono Ye Mudimbu Ye Mangu Bialu Vunu. Ye Mu Kinkita Kia Kinosono Kia Kondwa Kwa Lunungu Mu Yao Bavilangwa Bu Balembwa Tambula Zola Kwa Kedika Kidi Bavuluswa. So we go to 10. So he says, with all deceivers and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the level of truth that they might be saved. Okay, so this is what he was, this is the one they're talking. This is the, I'm telling you, people are going to be shocked. Okay, but I'm just saying, you know, we're beginning to see now, we're catching on. Now, I wanted to show you this real quick. Now, I don't agree with this. This is what they said they saw in the future. And doing however they were able to see things. The shift in the water because of the events that are coming. This is a lie to a certain extent because it's going to be the opposite. It'll actually be the outer layer of water and the inner one is going to be more land. Okay. Because of the fact that, as they showed us, this is the land. But they can't tell you that, so they keep it hidden as to what they really think is going to look like. Okay, for anyone that comes across this, to hide the fact. Now, as you can see, if this was the land that was going to be saved, Israel, then explain to me why part of it's underwater. Okay, when realistically speaking, it'll be this one. Now, of course, to hide this fact, they still think, oh yeah, it's gonna be water here, you know, different places. And this is where they're saying people will be running to as this judgment starts to hit. Because remember, if all the world is Egypt, remember Egypt got flooded? The Most High sent a flood upon Kamata too. Well, this is why. Okay. So this is what they keep talking about, how they knew, you know, that certain things are going to change. And even this is a US map will equal submerged that they showed in the past. So they're anticipating this and they know that some bad things are going to come. They just don't know when. They all know that, but it's coming soon. Anyway, all right. So family, like I said, I didn't really want to be on here, but I saw some things that are pointing to our readiness, our preparedness, um, the anticipation. More. I'm sure people are seeing more revelations, more dreams, more prophesying, more things that are happening. So that we need to become to work together. Financially help each other, do the things to get people. Because like I said, these people are going to find themselves being millionaires. You're saving your retirement now, and it's like it's not going to be there. I mean, the living proof is when they've launched the one world government, the one religion. It's going to all change, and the Most High won't stand for it. Okay. All right. So once again, Levuva Zola Quingi, and again, like I said, may Yakongo reign, and just know this, that things are starting to change more and more. Every day something's going to be coming. Every day prepare, because now they're stepping up, and the Most High is stepping up, and it's going to come down to what we have been talking about all along. It's going to be spiritual. We have to pray. All right. So Ingita and Sambololo.